Well, good evening, everybody. That's the third session of the day, hence the empty seats, but it's going to be the best. The reason is we have the High Commissioner. I only met him a couple of times, one for a proper conversation, and a couple of times at events like, not like this, more artistic. Our High Commissioner, Euripides Evriviades, studied in the States at a good university like this one, Harvard. And then he served in the diplomatic service in countless countries, Russia, Israel. I overheard him once speaking, I think, in Hebrew. Very effectively, very efficiently. He's been in high positions, both at the ministry and also as representing Cyprus at the European Council. And about 9 months ago, after serving as ambassador to the United States and Canada, he's the High Commissioner in London. He's got a lot of interest around his fellow, swimming, walking, etc. But it's one thing that impressed me, and that through contact, which absolutely was confirmed tonight. He's a magnificent user of the social media, but not for these nice love affairs and things like that. Efficient way of the media for the promotion of Cyprus. Something happens, clicks. I wish I was like that, but I'm very ancient. He's the young man. So he's not going to use this machinery here. He's going to address us very briefly, but he's going to take questions, and I hope we have a good discussion. Our ambassador, our High Commissioner, Euripides Evriviades. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the kind words of introduction. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. I would like to pay special thanks to Alicia. With Alicia. Yeah, right there. With Alicia, and of course to Professor Charalambous for giving me this opportunity to come and share some thoughts with you on something that is the closest thing to my heart, which is the Cyprus question. At the same time, I hope that this will not be seen as just simply, and our delegation being seen as just monothematic. To the degree that we are perceived to be monothematic, it is because, you know, for us, the Cyprus question is an existential issue. We have to get it right. We have to go forward with tenacity and perseverance in order to have a good, viable solution. But having also been members of the European Union for the last 10 years, that in itself, it is the single most strategic development that has happened to the country since independence in 1960. I cannot envisage where Cyprus would be if Cyprus were not a member of the European Union, despite the fact that it is divided. And nobody likes to have a divided country in the European Union. Nobody likes to be a divided country. At the same time, I would posit with you, and I would argue that the European Union has been a very, very successful experiment, the most successful political experiment in human history, despite its many faults and despite all the argumentations that you'll be hearing from several political quarters in this country. Despite its faults, the European Union has been the single most successful historical experiment, political experiment, and don't forget its genesis. Don't forget that it was basically founded after World War II, after the continent that has known wars and nothing else. And man's worst inhumanity to man, which was the Holocaust. I mean, 6 million people being obliterated. That was the Europe. And then came some visionary people, like Jean Monnet, who said something which is one-liner. It would figure perfectly nicely in a tweet. We live in a time of one-liners in sound bites, but he did say, when you change the context, you change the problem. When you change the context, you change the problem. And this was the genesis of the European Union. Okay? The coal and steel community, slowly, the construction, the European construction, we are where we are today. And I would say that despite its faults, I repeat, and this needs to be said even more so in this country, that the European Union, on balance, has been very, very good and not that bad. And I cannot think for the life of me why would anybody want to leave it, but that's not my decision to make. You change the context, you change the problem. What has been the hallmark of the European Union? The hallmark of the European Union was to extend the zone of peace and stability to the countries that the European Union itself embraced and it engulfed. It solved problems by embracing them. So by that measure, and by that virtue, the European Union is bringing itself to the strategic corner of the Eastern Mediterranean. And the Eastern Mediterranean is of cardinal importance for the security of Cyprus, of course, for the security of the United Kingdom, for the security of the United States, for the security of the European Union, for the security of energy, shipping, Suez Canal, and so many other things, terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, for the security of Israel. Because Israel cannot go north, Israel cannot go south, cannot go east. It has always gone west. And it has always passed through Cyprus's airspace, sea lanes, and so many things that has happened. So that brought us into another dimension with Israel. Today, 2 days ago, well, let me pull my thoughts together. That's what happens when you talk off the cuff and you don't follow them, and I don't follow the text. Okay, because I want to, when we talk about Cyprus, what comes to mind is a tourist place, a problem, Greeks and Turks on Cyprus, they never really got along together fine. They're really, how terrible. I'm trying to, by these introductory remarks, and of course a lot of things will come through the question and answer period because I really do believe in the Socratic method. I'm trying to present to you with another narrative. These things exist, regrettably. Cyprus is divided. At the same time, we are not monothematic, and by virtue of membership in the European Union, new horizons have opened up for the country itself in changing the context of the problem, for the country itself, for the European Union, in our bilateral relationship with the United States. Now, in trying to forge a greater stability and security in the Eastern Mediterranean, and I repeat, the Eastern Mediterranean remains of cardinal importance for the security of the West. It's no accident that you have the Sixth Fleet in the Eastern Mediterranean since 1945. It's no accident that what is happening now, the United Kingdom using the bases on Cyprus, and Cyprus being at the forefront of the war against ISIS. We are less than 100 miles from the shores of Syria. So it is frightfully important that in the Eastern Mediterranean you have a predictable, dependable, Western, democratic country of the European Union. That is Cyprus. Ben-Gurion himself said that the survivability of the State of Israel depends on the Mediterranean itself. We cannot allow the Mediterranean to fall into enemy hands, unfriendly hands, or potentially a friendly hands. And given the fact that 2 days ago, I'm not so, you said about Twitter, but I'm still in the Stone Age, and I still don't know how to make a PowerPoint presentation. But about 2 days ago, Turkey published a new map of Cyprus, and in which it simply blocked this area in the southern part of the Republic, saying to what they call navtex, navigation, telex to anybody that will go through region, we are reserving this. Now, that of course, this is not new to us. It's not the first time that it's happening. Turkey should not be in the northern part of Cyprus in the first place, okay? Because no matter of Orwellian double talk or double think can obliterate the fact that what we're talking about is invasion and occupation and massive violations of human rights. Don't believe what I say. Don't believe what anybody else says. Go and please read the European Court of Human Rights, read the judgments of the court, read the decisions of the United Nations, read the decisions of the Security Council, read the decisions of the European Court of Justice, read the decisions of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. So, I'm not here to do bashing, but I'm also here not to whitewash any question. So, our geography being our destiny. We cannot change our geography. And, of course, we have to come to an accommodation. No question about it. Of course, we have to find a way, a modus operandi, a modus vivendi. But this sent shock waves again to us, but it also sent shock waves to Israel. Because Turkey has shown its colors by pursuing its own national interest, which that national interest, as defined by the Turks and Ankara, is not necessarily the national interest of the European Union, not necessarily the national interest of the United Kingdom, and for that matter, not for the national interest of Israel. My first ambassadorial post was in Israel. That was 2003 to 1997 to 2000. And I still keep my connections with Israel because Israel is in my blood, even though I cannot condone what happened in Gaza, nor can I accept the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. But Israel is in my blood. I've kept my contacts, and not too long ago I was speaking with somebody that is still in a position of influence. He says to me, Evri, we have made a strategic blunder. I said, does Israel make strategic blunders? I said, I thought only Cyprus makes strategic mistakes. No, he says to me, no, we did. We thought that just because the Turks are not Arabs, they're not Muslims. Now we know what has been happening with ISIS. Now we know what's been happening with Iran. Now we know all these things. So I want us to even have a closer relationship between Cyprus and Israel. This is, for me, of course, and for many of us in Cyprus, music to our ears, because we do have another quality factor in the Eastern Mediterranean, which is the discovery of hydrocarbons. And the hydrocarbons can be a game changer because it changes the context. Just as the European Union was founded on coal and steel, it can be the progenesis of a East Mediterranean Union, if you like, or something of that sort. Now, this is my minister talking, Minister Kassoulidis, who's a conceptualizer. I was political director, and when the minister was saying that, you know, the hydrocarbons can be the game changer, they can be something like the European Union, I said, Minister, come on. I said, aren't we pushing these things too much? I mean, this is the Eastern Mediterranean. Fundamentally, you don't predict things, you know. But it can happen. That has been the game changer for us in many ways with our relations with Israel. We have delimited our exclusive economic zone with Egypt in 1973. I was member of our delegation to the Law of the Sea from 1976 to 1981. So I'm directly involved, I was directly involved with the Law of the Sea, directly involved with these things at the aggregate and at the political level. We've delimited with Egypt, we delimited with Israel, we delimited with Lebanon that has yet to be ratified. We were in the process of negotiating with Syria, the war broke out, so things stay where they are. But signs that this can be a game changer are there to be seen. Israel and Lebanon, they are at a state of war, yet both have communicated to us, and we have been trying to, I don't want to say mediate, but we've been passing messages. The Americans are there, of course, that have the gravitas and the power muscle to move things forward. That both of them indicated, both Israel and Lebanon indicated that they do not want to have any wars, and they don't want to fight things out in the sea. We can fight things on the land, we can do all these things, but we don't want to do it on the seas. Why? Because it's obvious, the seas need to be predictable, you have to have a strong legal regime so the multinationals can come in and invest. So this idea that the context changes the problem, it's there. I do not know if it's going to happen in our lifetime, but it's going to happen. The Palestinian Authority actually signing a contract with Israel to receive from Israel gas. The same thing with Jordan. Okay? So these things are there. Now, we want to take things to the next level. We really do not like to live in a divided country, because divisions are always a source of instability and conflict. Divisions in Germany, Vietnam prior to 1975 reunification, East Timor, divisions, shall I say Ireland? I do not know how much, I see that in your very nice program, Ireland figures out right nicely and prominently, so I do not know what comparisons are to be made there. But okay, comparisons are of course not correct because no two situations are alike. At the same time, no two situations are different either. So we have Cyprus that even though it is producing security for the West, and we have proven it, ISIS, fight against ISIS, the destruction of weapons of mass destruction in Syria, some other operations that I cannot say, and some Iranians that we extradited to the United States, daily cooperation on terrorism. All these things are happening, and I do believe that Cyprus is producing security for itself, for the United States, for the European Union, for the United Kingdom. It is not consuming security, and it is a predictable partner in this war, especially, I say especially even more so, ever since the new government has assumed duties in the last, 16 months?
Since March 2013.
Since March of 2013. Now, we have to solve the question, first and foremost for the benefit of the people. Second, also for the benefit of regional stability and security. Because Cyprus is there like a black hole. At the same time, beyond the obvious that we have to solve. Because if you do not solve, it's lose-lose. A lot of energy is consumed on the Cyprus question. Now we even have a economic crisis. I mean, 8 years ago we were net contributors to the European Union. Now we're begging for money. It's terrible. Absolutely unacceptable, the failures that happened in Cyprus. At the same time, for the last 16 months, things are looking better. I mean, We have gone we have received some upgrades from the Standards and Poor's and from these agencies. What do you call them? The credit agencies. Things are looking better in numbers, but the people are still suffering. Okay, so you put it all together in a mix, and then what happens? I repeat, the desire to solve the problem, of course. Why hasn't the problem been solved? Somebody can say to you, well, you had your chance in 2004 and you blew it through a referendum. Okay? Some other people say that was a chance, missed chance. Somebody else will tell you that it was a chance that needed to be missed because there were fundamental things that were wrong in the plan. And while it is good to argue within a democracy, it's never wise to argue with the outcome of democracy. And there was that was the outcome in 2004. We do, ladies and gentlemen, friends, look at the details. We do look at the content, and beyond the wish to solve the problem, and I repeat that stating the obvious. Mr. Denktash wanted to solve the problem, but he wanted to solve it in his way. Mr. Reykjavik, who invaded Cyprus in '74, using as the Greek putsch, the Greek military putsch, as an excuse, also said, well, the problem is solved. We invaded, we split the country in half, it's finished. We want a solution. My president was a solution that is based on democracy, human rights, the rule of law. What is good for 27 members of the European Union must surely be good for the 28th. We do not want Cyprus to be the odd man out. If the acquis communautaire, the body of rules and regulations that have been applying to so many other countries in the European Union apply to them, it should also apply to us. One country, one people, multiculturalism. You have Cypriot Greeks, I'm a Cypriot Greek and I'm proud of it. Cypriot Turks are equally proud of their origins. Armenians, Maronites and Latins. This is the Cyprus quilt. This is the European quilt. The European experiment which has been successful. Yes, it has been successful. We must say that, despite its many faults and despite the fact that it needs to be reformed. Now, these are the things that we're looking in a solution. And these things must come. Cyprus cannot be, I repeat, the odd person out. And when that happens, when we do have a solution, and we do not have gunboat diplomacy threatening us every other day, we do not have planes flying over our space and our people getting petrified, when we do have that, then we can move even forward on all these issues that I talked to you about having greater security and really making win-win. Ever since the ceasefire line opened up in 2003, we have had close to 38 million visits across the ceasefire line incident-free. There are many more problems between two Cypriot Greek teams playing football in Limassol than we have had through these crossings. I think these crossings break the idée fixe that people have about each other, okay? You see normal people trying to live a normal life. And what do people want anywhere? Anywhere, in any conflict. Send their kids to school, have a good healthcare system, less taxes, security, please. 4 things, 5 things, give it to them. This is what the people of Cyprus as a whole want. Okay? But Turkey's narrative, it's another story. Because Turkey has regional ambitions. Of course it cares of what is happening in Cyprus, but please don't, in many ways, and maybe this is a crude analogy, it's like telling me how much the Egyptians care about the Palestinians, or the Syrians care about the Palestinians. Of course they care what is happening, but it is not the driving force. Turkey plays in the big league. Turkey has regional ambitions. Turkey has its own definition of its own national interest. And if it means one day going to bed with ISIS, They would do it. They have done it. Then all of a sudden the boogeyman comes out, and the monster is out, now we have to fight it. Now, it's not just endemic to Turkey, mind you. We as the West have our responsibility because, you know, we created, e.g., the Taliban. We thought it was a good idea to fight the Russians. The monster is out of the bottle. Now, you know, Iran is telling the Americans, no such good thing as a Taliban. What were you guys doing? Hamas was basically created as a counterweight to Fatah. Now, we know what Hamas is, and we know that it is a terrorist organization, and we know the relations between Ankara and Hamas, the Hamas leadership. In the same ways with ISIS, mind you, because ISIS did not simply happen overnight. It needed financing, it needed training, it needed military conception. These things did not happen overnight. We knew, we must have known, we ought to have known what ISIS was all about and tried to hit it at the root. But we thought it was, whoever thought, that it was a good idea because then ISIS, okay, then they can hit Assad. Now we know what ISIS is, the brutal organization that it is that has to be eradicated. And mind you, in that narrative, of the ISIS narrative, Cyprus figures there as well. Because if you look at the Eastern Mediterranean, okay, it would have been nice if I had a PowerPoint, but next time my colleagues, my younger colleagues will help me out, because like I said, I may do tweets, but I'm in the Stone Age, huh? I mean, it takes, you know, I still do not know how to handle these things. If you look at the Eastern Mediterranean, you basically see a crescent. And the star of the crescent, it's Cyprus. The ISIS told us so. And why shouldn't we believe them? So, you have a Cyprus that it is member of the European Union, in the Eastern Mediterranean, a predictable partner of the European Union, and the western part of the security system. We have to guard that. We have to guard that. And that has to be guarded in any solution. We cannot be neutralized through a solution, as indeed was the case in 2004. That was the problem of 2004. 1960, we had a security system in Cyprus that had three overlords: Turkey, Greece, United Kingdom. We had a security system. All three guarantor powers failed the Cypriots miserably. For different reasons. I'm not putting them at the same on the same basket, of course not. 67-74, it was a despicable Greek junta ruling Greece that staged a putsch against Makarios. Who staged the putsch? Who was there? That's a time for another lecture. Okay? Whose fingerprints were? That's another story. And who was behind the Greek military junta? Suffices to quote to you, not one of my favorite persons, but Henry Kissinger, who said the Athens junta was the best goddamn Greek government in Athens since the age of Pericles. That was the thinking at the time. The Greeks of the junta of 67-74 committed aggression of Cyprus from within by staging the putsch. The Turks did what they did, 1974, which was a continuation of their 1956 plans. I put these things on the Twitter. I put these things because in 1956, the Attila line as it is now, it's a variation of the 1956 line, because they said, okay, we will divide it, and then 55, 60, it was Cypriot Greeks, 80% of the population wanted embassies, the Turks wanted division. In the end, we had the independence. It worked for 3 years. Then we had the intercommunal problems. And we cannot repeat the same mistakes of 1960. That was another problem with the 2004 plan. Because it again put Cyprus in a neo-colonialism situation. Again to have, this was 2004. And actually this is what we're discussing even now. I, for one, do not like it. I, for one, if my country, Cyprus, of 2014, member of the European Union will have 3 other countries guaranteeing its own independence, territorial integrity with a unilateral right to intervene, it's not my country. I will vote against any new plan that does that. Has nothing to do with the Cypriot Turks. Has nothing to do with anybody. But I cannot think in the life of me that my country of 2014 will still have a sort of a neo-colonialism aspect. Annan plan was also based on Bosnia-Herzegovina. We see the purpose of Bosnia-Herzegovina. That's why Bosnia-Herzegovina is not able to decide to have a smooth decision. Now we say, oh, we have to have a stronger central government. You cannot do one thing or not to do another thing because your background is Greek, Turk, Armenian, Bosniak, or Serb. This is not the European experiment. Human rights are not communal rights. Human rights are exactly that, human rights, based on individual human rights, yes. These are the country that we want to do. Now, things are not easy, but I can assure you that this is the way we want to go forward. As members of the European Union, not an oddity. And you know what? It really, it's not hurts me because, you know, if you're a diplomat, you're not supposed to have feelings, huh? I mean, you know, it's not sentimental about these things. You know, it's not a love affair, but it is a love affair with me and my mission for the last 38 years. But it is an oddity for me when Cyprus says, well, Cyprus, you know what? Well, I don't like to think of my country as an oddity because our geography, as I said, is our destiny, but we did not choose our geography. Okay? And it is no accident that whoever was the power at the time was also controlling Cyprus. It is no accident that Britain, 50 years after independence, still has 2 bases on the country. And they're welcome to have them, because right now, as I tried to explain at the beginning, it's a totally different narrative. There is a paradigm shift, and the bases are also, helping our own security. Okay? And what we do so not half-heartedly, but under a conscious decision. But I do not Cyprus to be an oddity. I would like you to put yourselves in our own position, look at it in its wider regional perspective, and see what you come out with. Read Christopher Hitchens, Hostage to History. Read Laurie Stern, The Wrong Horse, please do so. Brendan O'Malley and E.R. Craig, The Cyprus Conspiracy, which was written by Irish and not by Cypriots, because when we talk about conspiracies, there the Cypriots go again with conspiracies. This was written by others, and it wasn't written by us. Now, I don't purport to say that the Cypriot Greek community are angels. They're not. And as much as I fight for my country abroad, when I go to Cyprus, I'm anti-Cypriot, if you like. Because I see the stupid things that are happening, and I don't like them. From even little things, which are not little, when I see a car being parked in a place that should be for handicapped persons. It drives the hell out of me, and I make my position known. But it is not an oddity. We fought a guerrilla warfare against the mightiest empires of all times. We had an intercommunal fight, almost a civil war, I would say, in 63, 64. Show me a single country in the world that did not have any problems in nation building. 50 years ago, little black children in Belgium put in a zoo. And people were looking at the black children in a zoo. Where was America 50 years ago? The Ku Klux Klan, blacks being hanged from the trees, whites throwing acids in swimming pools. We had our problems. I'm sorry about them. My president, President Euripides, President Vassiliou apologized. of what extreme elements of the Cypriot Greek community have done in 63, 64. Now, the reverse at the time was also true. You had TMT. You had Cypriot Turkish extremists. Then things, they went the way they did, with the putsch that I told you about in the invasion. It was terrible, the junta, and then of course we were subjected to even bloodier history with the invasion and the continuing occupation. Yes, I have to call things by their name. If the Russians annex Crimea, it's an invasion, it's annexation. If they do whatever they do in eastern Ukraine, it's aggression. In Cyprus, people are simply afraid to call things by their name, and I'm wondering why. So, when we talk about these things, democracy, human rights, the rule of law, aggression, I would say, let's have some honesty in advertising. Because what happened in Cyprus in '74 actually created a precedent, which came about '75 in East Timor, which came about in Abkhazia, South Ossetia, Crimea, and I don't know what else you want to call it. Now, I think I've talked more than enough, because I see here it's about 10 minutes after 7. I know that in many ways my talk was not structured, because I'm talking to an academic audience, therefore I have to tell you, this is what I'm going to tell you, I have to develop my themes, this is what I have told you, and rub it all together. But I think you get the gist of what I wanted to say, because I spoke from the heart, I spoke off the cuff. My colleagues have done for me a tremendous draft here, because I also suffer from senior moments and I forget things. But now I would open it up for questions and answers. Please.
Thank you very much, Herr Commissioner. The speech indeed was wide, informative, thought-provocative, and I'm glad you are ready to accept questions.